The city of Jericho stood like a fortress in the desert, massive walls stretching high into the sky, guarded gates, busy markets, and streets crowded with merchants, soldiers, and worshippers of pagan gods. From the outside, it looked strong, untouchable, proud. But fear had already entered the city long before any enemy arrived. Whispers spread through every home and marketplace. The Israelites were coming. Stories about them had traveled across the land for years. People spoke of a sea splitting in two, of mighty kings defeated in battle, of a God so powerful that entire nations trembled at his name. And in the middle of that fearful city lived a woman named Rahab. Most people knew exactly who she was. Men visited her house in secret. Women likely avoided her in public. Religious people probably judged her with disgust whenever she walked by. In Jericho, Rahab carried a reputation no woman wanted. She was a harlot. Her house was built into the city wall itself, a place where travelers came and went without much attention. It was the perfect location for secrecy, but it was also a lonely life. The Bible does not tell us how Rahab became the woman she was. Maybe poverty forced her into survival. Maybe she had been abandoned. Maybe life had broken her long before anyone ever knew her name. But whatever pain filled her past, one thing was certain: Rahab had spent years living in darkness while searching for something real. And unlike everyone else in Jericho, Rahab listened carefully to the stories about Israel's God. The people of Jericho heard the same stories she did, but they responded with terror and stubborn pride. Rahab responded differently. Somewhere deep inside her heart, faith began to grow. She started believing that the God of Israel was not just another tribal god among many. He was the true God, the God above heaven and earth. Then one night, everything changed. Under the cover of darkness, 2 Israelite spies entered Jericho secretly. They had been sent by Joshua to study the city before Israel attacked. The men moved carefully through the streets, trying not to attract attention. Jericho was dangerous for Israelites. If they were discovered, death would come quickly. Eventually, the spies entered Rahab's house. Perhaps they believed it was the safest place to avoid suspicion. Travelers often came there. Outsiders would not immediately raise alarm. But someone saw them. Word spread quickly to the king of Jericho that Israelite spies had entered the city and were hiding in Rahab's house. Suddenly, soldiers were marching through the streets toward her door. Imagine the fear in that moment. Rahab's heart must have pounded as fists struck the entrance of her home. Outside stood the king's messengers demanding she surrender the spies immediately. In that instant, Rahab faced a choice that would determine her destiny forever. She could protect herself and betray the spies. Or she could risk everything for a God she had never seen. Rahab chose faith. Before opening the door, she rushed the spies up to the rooftop and hid them beneath bundles of flax drying in the night air. Then she faced the soldiers. With danger standing only feet away, Rahab calmly misled the king's men, telling them the spies had already left the city and could still be caught if the soldiers hurried. The men believed her. Moments later, the soldiers disappeared into the darkness beyond the city gates, searching the wilderness roads while the spies remained hidden safely above her head. Rahab stood alone in silence after they left. She had just committed treason against Jericho. If anyone discovered what she had done, she and her family could be executed. But fear no longer controlled her. That night, Rahab climbed to the rooftop where the spies were hidden beneath the flax. The city around them was quiet, but the future of Jericho had already been decided in her heart. Rahab confessed to the spies that everyone in the city was terrified of Israel. The stories of God's miracles had melted the courage of mighty warriors. She admitted that the people of Jericho knew destruction was coming. But Rahab believed something even greater. She believed the God of Israel was truly Lord over heaven and earth. What makes Rahab's faith so powerful is this: she believed without ever seeing the miracles herself. She had never walked through the Red Sea. She had never heard Moses preach. She had never traveled with Israel through the wilderness. All she had were stories. Yet she believed those stories enough to risk her life. Then Rahab asked for one thing in return: mercy. Not only for herself, but for her entire family. She begged the spies to spare her father, mother, brothers, sisters, and everyone connected to her when Israel attacked the city. The spies agreed. Before escaping, they gave Rahab a sign, a scarlet cord. She was told to tie the red cord in her window. When Israel invaded Jericho, anyone found inside her house would be spared. That scarlet cord became a symbol of hope hanging against the walls of a doomed city. Before dawn, Rahab helped the spies escape through her window using a rope hanging down the side of the city wall. She watched as they disappeared into the hills. Then came the waiting. Every day after that must have felt heavy with tension. Rahab woke each morning knowing Jericho's destruction was drawing closer. Around her, life in the city continued as normal. Merchants sold goods. Soldiers guarded the gates. People worshipped idols and trusted in the strength of the massive walls surrounding them. But Rahab knew those walls would not save them. Then one day, Israel arrived. Thousands of Israelites surrounded Jericho. The city prepared for war. But instead of attacking immediately, the Israelites did something strange. They marched silently around the city once each day. No battle cries. No arrows. Only silence. The people of Jericho watched nervously from the walls, confused by the strange procession below. For 6 days, the same thing happened. The tension inside the city grew unbearable. Then came the 7th day. This time, the Israelites marched around the city again and again. Priests blew their trumpets loudly. The ground seemed to shake beneath thousands of marching feet. Then suddenly, the Israelites shouted with one thunderous roar. And the walls of Jericho collapsed. Stone exploded into dust. Massive sections of the city crumbled violently to the ground. Panic filled the streets as destruction swept through Jericho. But amid the chaos stood one small house untouched. A scarlet cord hung from its window. Rahab gathered her family tightly inside as the city around them fell apart. Then the 2 spies returned exactly as they promised. They led Rahab and her family safely out of the destruction before Jericho was completely destroyed. In a single day, Rahab lost her old life forever. But she gained something far greater. A future. Rahab left behind the shame of Jericho and joined the people of Israel. No longer defined by her past, she became part of a new story written by God Himself. Years later, Rahab married into Israel and became the mother of a family line that would one day lead to King David and eventually to Jesus Christ Himself. Think about that for a moment. A woman once rejected by society, a woman known only for sin and shame, became part of the lineage of the Savior of the world. Rahab's story is not just about survival. It is about redemption. It is proof that faith can rewrite a person's future. The world remembered Rahab for what she had been, but God remembered her for what she chose to become. And in the middle of fear, destruction, and judgment, one woman's faith changed everything.